on.
No socks. You didn't. Hey,
I didn't have any socks on last week. My wife let me know about it too.
You know, it's a great point. We have a text that goes out between all the old guys, okay? So we'll put the text. And during the draft, you got Chris walking, and you see no socks. And we're like, we circled it, highlight on the text, and we're like, that's a smooth cat right there. That's our man. It's a good look, my man. It's a good look.
Well, it just means my socks at home probably are not wearable.
I love it, man. All right, well, let's get into it. So, obviously, with the draft, you guys went heavy on defense. So, was that the plan going in, or was this just something that kind of, because from fans' perspective, we always hear you're going to draft best available, or is it best for your team? So kind of give us an insight into, you know, did it fall your way, or was this was a mindset, we're going to go get defensive football players?
Well, we knew we wanted to add on defense, but on the flip side, it was a very deep defensive draft. I think there's one point when I looked at Frank and I said, look at the difference in players, and the depth of the draft was on the defensive side of the football. And it just played out that, you know, that we had some guys that, you know, fell right in our range, that had the athletic skill set and the character we were looking for.
Gotta love it, man. So let me ask you this. As you're going through, so if you guys haven't watched the videos that come out from Colts about draft day, and you're watching Chris and Frank and the whole group, everybody in the room, go back and check them out. I know one got dropped yesterday. I think it was 19 minutes. Well worth your time. But I saw the joy. So describe to us kind of the joy, because you called it your Super Bowl. I mean, you get excited. I see you guys high-fiving. So put us in the room with you. Like, what does it feel like to you as you're drafting these guys?
It is, it's just like game day. It's you know, some of the best feelings you get, you know, in that locker room after a win, that before we let the media in, that 10 minutes when you get to spend with your guys you've been working with, you've grinded with. You know, Frank's bringing energy. I mean, he brings energy every day. And, I mean, it's just a great feeling when it works out the way you wanted it to work out. And I know every team sits there and says, well, this is the way we planned it. And I'm telling you, this is the way we planned it. I kept a card, and I wrote down, like, this one perfect scenario, and it had, you know, 3 names, 4 names, and 5 names, and 4, and then 3. And we got one of each that we wanted. So, yeah, we were excited about that.
Man, unbelievable. All right, so Frank, let's transition over to you for a bit. So last year you talked about ascending the mountain and what that looks like. So tell me, coming in year 2, we've ascended part of the mountain, we've gotten to the top. You tell me, what's the most important thing for you as you're judging what this season's going to be?
We did. We had a lot of fun with that. We had a lot of fun with that mantra, you know, this climbing the mountain thing. Although it was first climbing out of a hole, right? The 1 in 5 hole.
That's exactly right.
And then once we got out of the hole, then we started climbing the mountain, and it was a fun climb with the guys. And as you know, Jeff, and this is being in going through the draft process with Chris, we're just reminded that really when it comes down to it, we want players who love the climb. You know, it's hard to get all the way to the top in this league. There's 32 teams trying to get to the top of Mount Everest, if you will, where that trophy is. So at the end of the day, what we've learned through the years is that the best way to get up there is to get guys who love to climb. In other words, that's AKA who love the process.
There you go.
Who love to come to work, who love to meet, who just love ball. They love each other. And we got guys like that, man. It's exciting. I mean, it's exciting to go in there. It's exciting, you know, and the one thing that you worry about that our leaders will do a great job of guarding against this is, you know, once you get close, and we got a view of the top last year.
Sure.
And, you know, now the tendency is, and Chris was great about this, it was, hey, we're not reaching for anything. You know, we're sticking to what God is. We're sticking with the same kind of players. We're sticking with the same mantra of, hey, process, process, process. And then if we get the right players who love to climb, then we got the best chance to get to the top.
Oh, man. Hey, does that get you fired up? Good gracious, man. Go put my head in the wall for him right now. You know, it's funny, he's talking about The Climb. How many of you guys remember the song by Miley Cyrus, The Climb? All right? It's my favorite song, just in case anybody... But I'm sitting here thinking about what you're saying, and I can imagine myself being in the locker room. And I would ask you this from a player perspective. When you called that out of your guys last year, let's just kind of go back to last year. When did you know they had bought into the process? Because like you said, you're 1 in 5. Listen, those locker rooms get really tense at 1-5, because usually what happens off of 1-5 is your season tanks, and that means a lot of guys are getting fired. So at 1-5, you got to hold guys together, right? So tell me when you knew that group, there was cohesion, there was unity, they was still fighting that dog, and you knew they weren't going to give up.
You know, it was in that 1-5 moment. It was in the players-only meeting, which obviously I was not in, but you hear the rumblings of it. And it's the leadership of the locker room. It's the leadership of the locker room. As coaches, you know, we're trying to set a vision. We're trying to have a plan. We're going to do everything we can do. But at the end of the day, they didn't flinch. They didn't flinch. In fact, when things got their worst, they took the most ownership. That's what we talked about. They went from, there was a lot of trust, a lot of buy-in, but it was really owning it. And I think what came out of that 1-5 meeting was, hey, we all got to own this together. Players, from their point, players and coaches, the whole building, and I think that's what came out. Man, it was special.
I love it. It really was. It's special to watch. All right, so you brought in one of my favorite coaches in the world. You had to have tricked him, or he tricked you. I'm not sure. But they brought in Howard Mudd, who was my offensive line coach. So, AKA the mad scientist, and you'll know why, because he pulls all his hair. He's got like this skullet right in the middle because he pulls all his hair out. But just tell me the impact of what your thoughts are with there, because I know you brought in Chris Strauss. So you're bringing a new O-line coach. That energy, that room, and that position, tell me what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, it was so exciting. I mean, you know, when I was here the first time as the quarterback coach and wide receiver coach and working with you back then as assistant, so we're looking for an O-line coach. And Chris and I are literally talking about this every single day. Every single day we're talking about, let's find, we got the right guy. And it was, you know, it was a hard move, but we did what we thought was best. And so we had kind of picked out Strausser. You know, the two of us, really, it was a process that we had went through, watching film, talking to people, and really just identified that Chris was the guy that we wanted to go after. And then I find out that Howard had kind of mentored him for the last few years, and that's the kind of guy Chris was. And so I called Howard to ask him about Strausser, because that's the guy we wanted to hire as the O-line coach. Howard's retired. I'm just thinking I'm calling Howard. We'll yuck. So for 15 or 20 minutes, he tells me all these amazing things about Chris Strausser. And then Jeff, I'm not kidding you, we sat on the phone 45 minutes or an hour, just Howard and I talking X's and O's, just talking ball. I got off the phone. I immediately went over to Chris's office, and I said, this is crazy, but we got to hire Howard. I mean, you know, can we pull it off, you know? And Chris says, let me go talk to, and this is like you said about Mr. Irsay. I can promise you that wasn't in the budget, right? But getting a guy like Howard can help us take the next step of where we want to go to. And so thankfully, we could get that done.
Oh, man, so good. All right, so let's go to since 2017. Let me know your thought. There's been a lot of change. When I got here today, this place doesn't even look the same. But take buildings, all this kind of stuff. Tell me how the organization has evolved, and what kind of your plan is in the future as this thing continues to move along. 'Cause there's been a ton of change, y'all. I'm just letting you know, from 2 years ago to now, you walk in the building, there is a culture change here. You can feel it when you walk in, you go in the locker room, you go in the training room, you go in the equipment room. There is a certain feel. So tell me, you know, what your thoughts are and how you've kind of pursued this thing.
Well, you know, my first week on the job, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't turn off, you know, all the noise because of everything I knew that needed to be done. And I knew I couldn't do it alone. I knew I was going to need the right people with us, and everybody on board with the same vision. And at the end of the day, I just kept putting the player at the center of the vision. I kept saying, we got to do everything we can do to help our players be the best they can be. Everything we can do to help our coaches be the best they can be. And if we can get the right people in the building, and put the right environment for them to learn and grow and get better, then we'll get better as an organization. And we got to continue to grow that way. You know, Frank talks about, you know, the struggle. And I think I learned a lot in that first year embracing the struggle, because if you don't embrace it, it will absolutely chew you up and spit you out in this league. And the struggle helps us get better. And I think that first year, you know, really gave us a chance to reflect, look at the things we needed to do to get better as an organization, and then move forward.
I tell you, put your hands together for that, because let me tell you, that vision is why you're in the playoffs. and where it's going. So, Frank, this is a question. So if y'all don't know, I coach high school football as well. So I want to get your opinion on this. So offensive-minded guy, play caller, put some great offenses together. You've coached some of the best in the business, whether it's here, other places you've done it. How hard is it to balance offense and defense as a head coach? And how do you split your time? Do you go in consciously thinking, or is it just kind of an organic thing that you just kind of let play out?
It's a little bit of both. And I'll tell you what, that was really one of the highlights. I wasn't sure how that would go. Had a plan for it, but hey, now I've been on the offensive player, offensive coach, but now a chance to connect and touch with the whole team. And so all we did was structure it so that, number one, get the right coordinators. In fact, I think probably once a day I tell my wife, I have to pinch myself, that we got the best 3 coordinators in the league right here with this team. I'm telling you, the 3 coordinators that we have are so stinking good, it's disgusting. And so on defense, I mean, it's really crazy. I mean, these guys are great football. They're not good football coaches. They're great, all 3 of them. And Matt has a great vision for the defense. And so I don't go in there and try to micromanage that. I mean, right. It's his defense. He's calling the shots. I do try to go in and I try to have my touches with the players, find my ways to get involved, affirm the vision, the process, bringing some energy to the meetings when I can there, but really just let Matt do his thing. And the same thing really on special teams with Bubba. And then I can do that. I can spend time out of the offense every now and then because we got such an incredible offensive coordinator in Nick Sirianni. I mean, that guy, Nick and I go way back. When Chris hired me, the first thing I said to Chris was the number 1 guy we got to get is Nick Sirianni. He's a brilliant coach. We need to get him here. So that's how you do it. You get great coordinators.
I love it. Chris, so you talked about the importance of signing your own guys. And you've put your money where your mouth is, in all honesty, and you've done that. Tell me why that was such an important thing for you, and tell our fans why that's so endeared to your spirit for this football team.
I just have always felt that when you draft well or you acquire players when they're young, and then you train them, in the ways we want to do things, rewarding them is better than rewarding a guy that from free agency. I mean, these guys have come in, they've worked, they've done everything the way we want them to do it, and they understand the way we want to play. And I think what gets lost, in the media is that, you can't buy a locker room. You cannot do it. You might be able to sustain it for a year, but you can't build anything special over time by getting into free agency consistently. You can get a piece or 2 to help you, but the majority of your team needs to be from players you have acquired at a young age and developed on your own. And then that builds something that will be lasting over time.
That's the culture. That's the culture that you talk about, what you preach, and like I said, you're sticking your money where your mouth is, and it's for our future is bright because of that. Final question. I'll let you 2 guys go, and I know you got rookies, so I'm sure you got a lot going on. Frank, to you. So Tony Dungy, obviously, huge impact on my life. But just talk about, and by the way, Frank was a huge impact on my life. If you don't know Frank personally, he is an incredible human being, great football coach, better man. So if you don't know him that well, get to know him and his story. But just tell me about Tony, any impact from a coaching side, personal side, of just what kind of impact he's played in your head coaching.
Yeah, it needed a long time, but the short answer is it was a huge impact. Tony was the first coach who hired me. To have a chance to come in and work under him, be the same person every day. Be the same person every day. He's the most authentic and real person you would ever want to be around is Tony Dungy. Don't keep it simple. It's fundamentals and technique. It's fundamental, and do the simple things better. Do the simple things in extraordinary ways. And then our mantra here really is from Tony. I mean, it's about the process. It's focus on the process, getting better every day. Tony's a mentor of mine. I call Tony, I don't know, maybe once a month, maybe once every couple months. Just a great man, a huge influence on my life. And he has a personal connection with the guys. He believes in people. Yeah. He believes in you. And you feel that and you know that when you're around him.
I love it. You guys put your hands together. Coach Frank Reich, Chris Ballard.